my official title is a lead level mindset coach. I am Dr. Shelley Nash, and that comes from my previous career as a chiropractor for 25 years. And so I moved into mindset coaching about 5 years ago. And really, I help high achieving women to unlock their genius so that they can 10x their income and really claim the success that they want and deserve in their life. So mostly working with midlife women or women that are transitioning from one career to another, or just want to take their current business or career to the next level. So, like I said, I was a chiropractor previously in my career. Hello, Rondell. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being my sidekick and helping me out. So I was previously a chiropractor. Previous to that, I did massage therapy. And then previous to that, I had a whole nother career in textiles and clothing, fashion, and did that for several years. So I've had an eclectic background, but ever since I got into holistic medicine and holistic healing, I started really because of the belief that we have to get to the source of the problem and not just treat the symptoms. So as a chiropractor, we're always looking for the root cause, the source of the symptoms. And we believe that it's the nervous system that connect, and when the nervous system isn't flowing, then the body is in a state of dis-ease or disharmony. And so by aligning the spine, getting the nervous system flowing with either acupuncture or some other sort of method, we allow the body to heal itself. And the body heals itself through this natural energy flow that it has in it, which is its connection to innate intelligence, God, whatever you believe in, want to talk about that. But it's this healing power. So when I transitioned into mindset coaching, it was kind of a natural transition because people would come to me for chiropractic and they would want me to fix them. And I did a lot of body, mind, emotional work at that time. So they would have emotions and they would come to me to fix their emotions and to release the syndrome of that emotion. And so I just wanted to empower people to know how to do that for themselves. And so that's kind of how mindset coaching came about. And as I've studied the mind-body connection for over 30 years, I've realized more and more how important this is for us to really understand mindset and our thinking, because that is actually also the source of everything that you have in your life. So all of it, as you can look back on your life, you can realize that, you can connect the dots, but as you're moving forward, you just go on faith that you're moving in the right direction. And so I see a lot of people here, so comment and let me know you're here, where you're from, and if you're excited for the class today. I'd love to hear and see who's on the call rather than just a little number on the top of the page. So today we're talking about busting through imposter syndrome. And I have to say that I think I was aware of this phrase, imposter syndrome, for a while, but I really hadn't paid that much attention to it because I knew it in a different fashion. And then I started more recently hearing people talking about imposter syndrome, and I thought, well, maybe I hi Gina from Dell, talk more about how my version of this and help people through this, because I think it's something that people just don't understand. And so in my looking into imposter syndrome, I actually then read a few books about it and wanted to educate myself on how that all came about, the term imposter syndrome. So I wanted to go through a few definitions for you of imposter syndrome that I came up with through my process. So I have some notes here if you see me looking down. Imposter syndrome, people who struggle with imposter syndrome believe that they are undeserving of their achievements and the high esteem in which they are, in fact, generally held. So these are high achievers. This actually came about in the early 1970s, maybe late 1960s, with some research that was being done about high achieving women and how they didn't feel like qualified for their positions. So this has been studied for quite a long time. And then other things about this as a definition are that they feel that they aren't as competent or intelligent as others might think. So it's almost like, they feel differently on the inside than how they're projecting on the outside or how people are perceiving them. And soon enough, they think that people will discover the truth about them. So how many of you can relate to this? Hello, everyone. Leslie, Allison, it's good to see you here. How many can relate to those definitions of imposter syndrome? I have another one in just a second that we'll go through, but it's so great to see everyone. And so as a chiropractor, and I just want to put it in a disclaimer. So like I just said, I know what I know about imposter syndrome through studying that I've done, but I also am talking to you from my background as a chiropractor, my background as a holistic healer, my background in body mind connection and body mind emotion, studying that, and my background in elite level mindset coaching. So I don't proclaim to know everything there is to know about imposter syndrome around imposter syndrome, but I know a lot based on my mindset coaching, and a lot more that I understand within the last 5 years than I would have understood before that. So that's just my little disclaimer about that. And then as a chiropractor, I always thought that labeling things is a very dangerous thing to get into, because as you label yourself as something or having something, then you attach yourself to it, and you're more likely to stay in that place and become what that label of yourself. So it locks you into creating more of the same when you say, I have imposter syndrome, or I am I feel like an imposter. So, as a chiropractor, and as a health practitioner in general health, they label diseases that actually usually are a bunch of symptoms. Once they find a bunch of symptoms and a bunch of people have these symptoms, then they label it as a dis-ease or a disharmony in the body. And we always want to hyphenate the word dis-ease, because it is that disharmony in the body, and it's a bunch of symptoms put together. And I even remember that when fibromyalgia really became a thing, it might have even been back in the 80s, or that became a word that was used to describe a certain amount, like certain symptoms that people had. But it doesn't necessarily look to the source of the problem. And so you want to make a definition and distinction between your symptoms and what's the source of the symptoms. And we're going to be going into a deep dive in that in a few moments. So disease, disharmony, yes. Which actually leads down a path of decay and eventually death. But that's depressing, so we won't continue on that conversation right now. So when you say, I'm an imposter, or I feel like an imposter, you are cementing inside of you that is true. And so anytime you say anything after I am, your inner self believes that to be true. And it puts you in this certain group. And in a way, we sort of like this. We like to have, we feel bad. And then we like to, when we find out that we have something, it's sort of like, oh, it makes us feel a little better to have something and to be diagnosed with something. And finally, they know what's wrong with me, and they'll, and then you don't feel so alone, and maybe they're going to figure it out. So it's kind of like this relief we have, and with imposter syndrome, I noticed that too, is like, I feel like it's more women that notice this imposter syndrome, although I'm sure men do too. But it feels like it puts you in a group of you have a tribe of women that like even all the women that commented on the question that I asked about, do you feel like an imposter in your life? And as you talk about that, and others talk about it, you feel this camaraderie, and it feels better. But I really want to encourage you to think of it differently and think that that is a dangerous place to be in, because as you label yourself with imposter syndrome as having imposter syndrome, it is actually perpetuating the problem. So, imposter syndrome phenomena was actually first labeled in 1978 as occurring in high achieving women. And this is the definition that they gave us. And really, really pay attention to this, because we're going to circle back to it after we get through the whole workshop today. They defined it as a persistent belief in the lack of intelligence, skills, and competence, and that the praise of others was undeserved, and they continue to doubt their ability. So Allison says, labeling yourself as an imposter perpetuates the problem. Exactly. So let me repeat that again. A persistent belief in lack of intelligence, skills, and competence, that the praise from others was undeserved, and they continue to doubt their ability. How many of you can relate to this? How many of you can relate to feeling a lack of intelligence, skills, or ability, or that you were doing your work and you were getting praised for it, but deep inside, when you went home at night, you knew that they didn't really know the real you. Or if they only knew the real you, they wouldn't have said all those nice things about you. So how many of you can feel and relate to that? And for those of you that haven't clicked StreamYard, when you comment, I don't know who you are. So if you can go back and click that StreamYard button, it would be awesome. Then I can call you by name. So, they don't collect your information or anything. It just allows me to see the picture and what your name is. So here's the thing. We all have, and I hate to even use the word, but I will right now, we all have it. We all have imposter syndrome. We all can have it. And so it happens anytime that you are stretching yourself out of your comfort zone. And as women that are fearless and going for our freedom in life, we're stretching ourselves, going out of our comfort zone. And so we are conditioned to act, walk, talk, behave in a certain way. And then when we set a goal for ourselves that's out of that way we're conditioned, then immediately there's a feeling of anxiousness because we're not there yet. And to go there feels uncomfortable. So we're not congruent with the new place that we're going and the new person that we're going to need to become when we get there, when we reach the goal. And so you have an image of yourself from the current image, and you have an inner image of yourself, the way you think about yourself, that is related to how you were conditioned or programmed in the past. You have an inner image and you have the image you're projecting. And oftentimes those aren't congruent right now. And then when you I'm going to use my hands, when you set a goal, so you're here and you set a goal for here and you're not there yet, your image of yourself is still way down here, but you need to create an image of yourself up here in order to get there. So we have sort of these three self-images that we're working with: our old self-image and our current self-image and the image of ourself that we need to be if we're going to create our new goal or get to our new goal. And you have to do specific things in order to set your self-image for the goal that you're going for. And so what does this relate to imposter syndrome? So it's gonna all fit together, I promise, at the end. But imposter syndrome has to do with, the way we think about ourselves, our beliefs about ourselves, the habitual thought patterns that we have about ourselves, and things that were imprinted upon us about who we were, that maybe are you've heard false beliefs or limiting beliefs or false truths about yourself when you were younger. And You didn't have the ability to reject those ideas, so you just accepted them as true. And then you continue to live your life out in those patterns unless you consciously choose to change them. So what's going on here? Now we're going to take a gigantic dive into the deep end to really dissect what's really going on when we're talking about imposter syndrome. So get your pen and paper out, take some notes. When you take notes and you write, you actually causes thinking, and it causes you to process this more. And if you actually write notes and draw pictures, it causes you to even process it at a deeper level, because we think in pictures. And if you can draw pictures of what you're hearing, it'll cause you to think at a deeper level. That's just a little side note. But who loves this so far? And let me know in the chat. Are you resonating with anything that you've heard so far? Let me know. So what's really going on? This is a quote that I love. And when I first heard it, it took me a while to wrap my head around it. So I'm going to say it a few times. You might want to write it down. It's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not. It's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not. I'm going to say it one more time because it's big. It's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not. So who you are at your essence is perfect. There's nothing wrong with you. And so it's who you think you're not that's holding you back. And thanks. Yeah, I believe that. It's true. So you're perfect. Your thoughts though get in the way. You're thinking you're not gets in your way, holds you back. And what does this really mean? You think that you're not. So we have in our mind an area of our mind, the subconscious mind, emotional mind, that holds something called a paradigm. Now, a paradigm is a big, huge word. When I first heard it, it just made me confused because I'd never heard the word before. So you can think of a paradigm as the way you're conditioned or you're programmed in your life. And in that, think of that as a container. Your computer is programmed in a certain way, and the computer programmer built the program, and it contains a lot of different pieces to it, a lot of parts to it. So in your internal program, which we call a paradigm, I have to get you used to hearing the word, we call a paradigm, the programming, the conditioning you have contains your habits, your beliefs, your image of yourself, and how you walk, talk, behave. It's all part of who you were imprinted to be at an early age. So that started off from age 0 to 6. You didn't have the ability to reject any ideas. Everything that was around you, your environment, your parents, your teachers, the people that you were around, all were impressing ideas on you. And if you have children right now, you know that this is happening because you can see your children, that you're programming your children, whether you like it or not. It's just how it happens. It's how our neurological system is developed. So no fault of anyone. It's just how it happened. So you started to believe what your parents believe, or your grandparents, or you took on actions and mannerisms like them. And this happens really intensely until you're about 6 years old, because you have no ability to make a conscious decision yourself about what you take on. So you just, like a sponge, take on everything. And then as you grow, by the time you're 18 years old, you're 96 to 98% programmed, conditioned to be, act, walk, talk a certain way in your life. And unless you take conscious choice to make changes in that programming, you are going to react in that way for the rest of your life. And this is what most people do. You're trying to make changes in your life over and over and over. You expect a different result, but you don't get a different result because you don't change the source of the problem, the programming from the source. So we already made a circle back around to what I was talking about, looking at the source versus the symptom. So does that make sense to you guys? Does that make sense? So not only are you personally programmed, we have what's called a cultural program or a cultural paradigm. And depending on how old you are, when you grew up, you have different cultural paradigms that you took on and beliefs you took on too, around women, around money, around race. We see this very recently in the Black Lives Matter movement this last summer. We've seen, what do I want to call it, demonstrations, back in the 60s on this same issue. And so cultural paradigms take a long time to change too, because there's a large group of people to change. And when you change a cultural paradigm, you don't just change the culture, you have to change each individual person in that culture. And so it takes a long time to change, very difficult to change a cultural paradigm, as it is very difficult to change your personal programming, conditioning, and paradigm. It's deeply and almost neurologically wired in you to act, walk, and talk in a certain way. So much so that it's hard for you to resist against it. And that's why there's two ways to change a paradigm, change your programming. One is, boom, a highly emotional event happens, a death in the family, a loss of some kind, maybe 9/11, a huge event that happened, or even like COVID, or some emotional event, usually negative, that causes you to make a decision in a different way and go a different route. So we don't want to have to rely on emotional things happening for us in a negative way in order to change our programming. So the only other way to change our programming is with repetition of the new idea, repetition of what we want, repetition ad nauseum, illogical amount of repetition, not just affirmations, but changing the source, changing the thought process behind what we're saying to ourselves. And so I don't know anyone that changes their paradigm on their own. It also takes a lot of support, accountability. It's great that you're in a group of like-minded women that are going for what they want in the Fearless and Free group, to surround yourself, put yourself in the environment conducive to your growth with other people that are going places and going for goals. And also get coaching. A lot of you are either coaches in this group or no coaches or have had coaching. Coaching is the main way that we get out of our own way because a coach can see the real you, can see beyond your paradigm. You are looking through your paradigm, trying to make changes, and it's really hard. You can recognize this because when you have a friend, or maybe your husband or someone that you can see the greatness in them and they can't see it for themselves, that's kind of what a coach is like. We can see the greatness in our clients and we hold that belief for them until they can see it for themselves. And so I'm sure you've experienced that with your kids or with your husband or with your friends, that you can see the greatness in them and they just are incapable of seeing it in themselves because they have this programming that they just can't get through. And until they have that support in order to do it for themselves. So a little bit of a side note, but really, really important too. So just catching up on my notes here. I went through a bunch of stuff without looking down. So another point on that is that when you're little, when you're like the sponge, is that you accept everything as true, as the truth. And it's real for you. And sometimes that's hard because you're so you actually ask yourself, like, what do I believe about money? What are some of the beliefs I have about money? Well, we have a whole lot of cultural beliefs about money. You probably had family beliefs about money, but just always ask yourself, question yourself, is it really true? And is it really true for me? And is it a belief that is serving me? And do I want to continue to believe that? Or do I want to imprint on myself a new belief that's going to serve me to get where I want to go, where I'm growing into? So another aspect of getting to the source, and we're a little bit beyond the new year. However, the new year, we always want to change something, make a resolution, lose weight, exercise more, set a new business goal, whatever that is. And we're all excited about it. And usually about this time of year, people will drop off their goals. They've even forgot what goal they set, or this is what happens because the paradigm is so strong. The programming is so strong. And you can think about this for yourself. What goal did you set the beginning of the year? And is it in the top of your mind still? Sometimes we're going along and we go, oh my gosh, I forgot that goal. And it just slipped my mind. Well, what happened? It slipped your mind. Your paradigm took over. Your old way of being took over, and you weren't even aware of it. That's why we need coaches and support to get through these strong paradigms that were so neurologically wired in us. So when you try to change a behavior like eating differently or exercising more, or all those behaviors that you're trying to change at the new year, you're only going to get a temporary result, because behavior and actions that you do are not the source of the problem. They're the symptom. The source of the problem comes in your thinking and your beliefs about who you are, the chatter that you're giving to yourself about what you're capable of, and like all the thought process that got you into being overweight or being out of shape. That thought process is what needs to change for a permanent solution. So just think about that. Am I trying to change behavior without getting to the source of what started the behavior in the first place? So that's another little tidbit on the side of imposter syndrome, but it all fits in. And then another piece to this that I always used to, I had a lot of therapy in my life early on because I kept trying to figure myself out. And so I was in a lot of therapy, and in therapy, we talked about shame. And it wasn't until I think I was in some 12-step program where I learned the difference between shame and guilt. And here's the difference, and it's going to help you so much. So when you feel guilt, it's because you feel like guilt is about you did something wrong. And so you feel guilty that you did something. Shame is you feel bad because there's something wrong with you. You think there's something wrong with you, that I am bad. And that goes back to the statement that I just said. It's not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you're not. So when you think there's something wrong with you, or there's something innately bad about you, that's when you feel shame. So it fits into what we're talking about, because there is nothing wrong with you. All you need is to understand some things that you don't understand right now. And you need to have some knowledge that you don't have yet. So, so who is relating to all of this? Thank you, Leslie. So if you're like myself, one of the ways in which I think we maybe battle against the feelings of being less than or an imposter is to gain more education and to gain more knowledge in order to prove yourself to yourself that you are, as good as everybody thinks you are, or, to try to build yourself up. So the truth is that you don't need to know any more, like have more education, like as in schooling education, in order to have the success that you desire. So we have something that we call the knowing doing gap, where you know what to do. Say, for example, you know how to lose weight. You know you've lost weight before. You know how to work out. You've gotten in shape before. But you find yourself not doing the things that you need to do in order to make that happen. So you know what you need to do, but you're not doing it. So there's this gap in between. And what's in between the gap of knowing and doing is our paradigm, our programming, our condition, our habits, beliefs, our self-image holds us back, stops us, the old patterning, the old ways. So, guilty of this one, gaining knowledge to prove myself. Yeah, I have like enough certificates and degrees. Like I could plaster this room. I took everything down behind me but one, but I've got 3 over here. Gaining more and more knowledge and thinking that's going to do it for me. That's going to do it for me. But really, how many people do you know that never went to college, never went to even high school, and that are super successful? In fact, we have in this culture, in this world we have right now, so many successful people that never even went to college, never went to high school, because they just were about the doingness of things. And they learned along the way. So that's what I wanted to say about that. And when I was doing the research about imposter syndrome, there's some other coping mechanisms that we have around imposter syndrome. And I'm going to number these off. There's 7. I want you to write down the ones that you relate to and the ones that maybe you do. So the first one is working harder, being diligent and thinking the harder you work, the better it will be. Trying harder, working harder, putting in more effort. Then you kind of build yourself up to what other people think that you are. So like you've got to keep up appearances in a way. That's number 1. 2 is you hold yourself back, or you settle in your life. Hold yourself back, like from maybe advancement in your career, so that you can keep the status quo. It's just like the comfort zone. If you can keep yourself in your comfort zone, then people won't have expectations of you or think higher of you than what you think of you. So and I just thought of this myself, it's like, a lot of times we have to get our self-image up to the standard of where image and it's this outer image we're projecting to get the job. Like we got the job, we did the interview, we're doing the job, but our inner image hasn't caught up with us yet. And that's really what this whole imposter syndrome is. You still are performing, you're performing a job from an outer image where you've had to put on a false front or, kind of fake it till you make it. But your inner image is still behaving and acting like the 6-year-old or believing like the 6-year-old or, in your teenage time or whatever. It hasn't caught up to the outer image that you're projecting. So that's also a lesson I work on with my clients to help them get congruent with their inner and outer image. And then once you're congruent with your inner image and your outer image, then when you set a goal, we get you to move into the image of the person that you're going to become. How does she walk, talk, and behave? And move there so that you can shift yourself to a higher level. So number 2 is holding yourself back and settling. Number 3 is an interesting one, is that you become charming, or you put on the charm. And I think about this one in like a social event or something. I used to have this really bad. I pretty much, it's different for me now than it used to be, but I didn't like to go out and be social. And if I did go be social, I had to like put on an act to be there. And then when I would come home, I would feel like a different person. So has anybody had that before? Like I could put it on for a short period of time. And then I would come home and feel comfortable again because I was back to like my old self and my old programming. So putting on charm in order to like live up to the outer image that you've projected for a job or something like that, but then still not having that inner image being in alignment with that. So somebody else says they were like that for a long time too. And now, I mean, and because now I know sometimes I still don't like to go to parties, but I know all about this now, and I'm much more comfortable just being me. So I don't have to put on anything to be liked or to be different or to be any different way. But that's a coping mechanism we use, is putting on the charm. Another coping mechanism we use or can use, number 4, is procrastination. Like if we don't make any decisions and we just stay where we are, then no one's going to notice and we don't have to change. So procrastination is basically indecision. So if you're stuck in procrastination, just start practicing making decisions quickly and often. And it's like decision making is like a muscle you build within yourself. The more you do it, the easier it gets. And for me, it was always difficult to make decisions on my own. I was always asking other people what they thought I should do, or if they thought I should do something. And really, when you ask other people their opinion, it's really the worst because, okay, I got you on procrastination. It's really the worst to ask other people's opinions about what you should do, because what you get when you ask other people's opinions is you get their conditioning, their programming, and it just makes it more confusing for you. So what I teach my clients to do with decision making is, well, for one thing, we get you to know who you are, what your purpose is, and to be really in alignment with who you are and where you're going. And once that is all happening and you have to make a decision, then you just go, does it fit or doesn't it fit? If it fits, yes. If it doesn't fit, no. It's like easy. And that's how I think that these really wealthy people can make decisions quickly and on their own and fast and not change it, is because they know what they're doing, where they're going. And if it fits or doesn't fit, then they're just say yes or they say no, and then they move on. Think about how much time you have wasted by not making a decision. It could be weeks, months, years that you have kept yourself stuck because you haven't made a decision. You've stayed in indecision about something. Maybe it's going to school or whatever. When it's just like, and this is something that someone pointed out to me recently. It's like if you're in indecision, just make a decision. Like, don't let a day go by in indecision, because it really robs you of your energy. It robs you of time. So if you have a decision to make that decision for today, and tomorrow you can make a new decision. But make your decisions and keep your decisions. So Napoleon Hill, in his book, Think and Grow Rich, he interviewed 500 of the wealthiest men and women of the world back in the early 1900s. And he discovered that the wealthiest people in the world make decisions quickly and often, and they rarely change their mind. And the other people live in indecision and procrastination and don't really get what they want. So the wealthy make decisions quickly and rarely change their mind. So start to work on your decision-making muscle. So number 5 then is a coping mechanism for being, kind of like staying in imposter syndrome, I guess, is to maintain a low profile or a changing profile. I think about this as being sort of like low profile. You went to the dance in high school, and you just kind of were a wallflower. You didn't have you didn't know who you were. You didn't have a lot of self-identity, so you can keep yourself in sort of this la-la land, and not be strong in your own self-confidence. And that keeps you stuck in that syndrome of imposter syndrome. And then another coping mechanism is to never finish things, to avoid what I believe is if you finish something, then you would maybe have praise, and maybe somebody would say you did a good job. And so if you don't finish anything, you don't get that praise, you don't get that acknowledgement. And then also you get a reason to beat yourself up because you're not finishing projects. How many of you have ever done that around the house? So I have somebody, oh my gosh, I wasted so much time, I have trouble deciding where to eat even. Oh yeah, this was a big one for me. I'll reveal some stuff. I know I had this coach one time, and I was in a very negative relationship at the time as well. And I was debating on whether to go to a dance. We were dancers, and I was going to a dance on my own or to a dance he was at. And I literally couldn't make the decision. And she's like, just what do you want? And I was like, I don't know what I want. I was so bad. That was more about codependency as well, but that fits in here as well. So I've released a lot of my codependency as a result of that negative relationship. And that's actually one of the things that fuels me into wanting to help women in empowerment, is because it was about 9 years ago when I was released from that codependent relationship. And I really had, it was like my biggest bottom, and I say to people that your biggest challenge ends up always being your biggest opportunity. And what it was for me is that it was my opportunity to, get myself through that, first of all, but then learn about that to help other women to be empowered in their lives and go for what they want. So let me see what someone says. Yes, lots of unfinished stuff, but I'm getting better every day at making decisions and getting stuff done. Yes, every day, make a decision. Yesterday, I've had these 2 folding chairs in the back of my car for probably, 2 weeks to a month, gonna take them to Goodwill. And yesterday it was just like, I'm doing it. I just get it done, So those little kinds of things can chip away at your self-esteem as well. And that's what I was saying, like the never finish things, it chips away at your self-esteem little by little by little. And as you repair those and it builds you up, then you feel better and better about yourself. So then the last one, number 7, is self-sabotage, which really sort of includes everything there. All self-sabotage is basically the knowing doing gap. We know what to do, but we're not doing it. And we're not doing it because of the gap, which is our conditioning and our programming that is neurologically wired in us. So self-sabotage is really because of the paradigm, because of our programming. And as we learn how to change that programming, then we gradually get out of our self-sabotaging behaviors. And it's a step by step process of that. So I think most of you have said write down what your biggest thing out of the 7 is. So I'll review them. So 1 is working harder and harder and harder. Diligence. 2 is holding yourself back or settling. 3 is charm. 4 is procrastination. We had a lot of comments on that. Indecision. 5 is maintaining a low profile or changing profile. 6 is never finishing things, and avoiding praise and then being able to feel bad about yourself. And then 7 is self-sabotage, which kind of encompasses all of it. So number 1, diligence, working harder and harder and harder. That's a whole nother topic I could talk about. Maybe next month we'll talk about, you don't have to work harder to get what you want. In fact, you want to be more in flow with things. And number 4, we have procrastination, lots of 4, and indecision. Yeah, I think the winner here is going to be indecision and procrastination. So another good topic for another month here. So now what I want to do, that I've taught you a lot of this stuff, is wrap back around to those definitions of imposter syndrome. So you can see that imposter syndrome is a lot of symptoms of what is happening in your conditioning. So the one that I love the most in this, because it fits so much in what I've just talked about. So a persistent belief. So what did I say? In order to change your paradigm, you need to have persistent repetition of the new idea. So imposter syndrome, they're defining it as a persistent belief. It's a continual belief that you were conditioned to have about yourself. So a persistent belief in their lack of intelligence, skills, and competence. So somewhere along the line, in your growing up time, there was probably a time where your intelligence, skills, and competence was not praised, and you made a decision about that you weren't capable, didn't have the ability. So then the next part of the definition is that praise from others was undeserved. And that's also, I mean, one of our main paradigms in programming is that we don't deserve it, that we're not enough. And these are things that were programmed into us as not untruths that we came to believe as true. They continue to doubt their ability. When my inner critic starts with negative thoughts, I ask for proof those things are true. It quiets them down. Yes, always ask, is it true? Is it true? Is it true? Is it really true? And if not, what is true? What is the truth about you? And we know that, you were born perfect, and everyone was born perfect. Even if they have a disability, they have perfection. They are a creative being. And all of this stuff is just programming into us. And the beauty of the whole thing is, if you're on this call, you are now aware that you have the ability to change and shift all of these things, and that it's possible for you to grab a hold and develop a new you that's going to work for you better than the old you was. So that's that one definition. People that struggle with imposter syndrome believe they are undeserving of their achievements and high esteem that others hold them into. All of these things are really the beliefs. They're talking about how we believe, and that's what is part of your conditioning and programming: your beliefs, your habits. And those beliefs about yourself that are not true can be changed. And in order to change them, it takes repetition of the new idea, and getting to the root cause, the root thoughts that you have, and really pulling them out at the root, just like you would in your garden. You're pulling out the weeds. And here's the thing about your subconscious mind, like a garden, it just reminded me, so your subconscious mind doesn't care what you plant. You plant negative, it grows. You plant positive, it grows. So you have to be really cautious about what you're planting more of into your belief system. And that's a whole nother topic. So I could go on and on about that, but I'm going to stick to the topic. So the way out of imposter syndrome. I've already kind of given you some clues about it. And you've gained some knowledge here today. You have to really understand what's going on, and understanding how the mind works, how your conscious mind, your subconscious mind work to create what you have in your life. And basically, a way to say that is your thoughts and your feelings are what you take action on, and that action produces a vibration into the world, which comes back to you in an equal and opposite way. We refer to it as the law of attraction, that is very commonly known these days. The law of attraction really is the law of vibration. It's what you put out comes back. And and the law of attraction, whether you believe it or not, it's working all the time. And it doesn't require you to believe it, because like gravity, whether you believe in gravity or not, it's holding you to the earth. If you lived on the second floor and stepped off the balcony, gravity would pull you to the ground, and it wouldn't be a happy situation. So like gravity, cause and effect is also in play. So if you're implanting negative thoughts into your mind, and holding negative feelings in your mind, you're going to create more of the same. So when you plant positive thoughts and feelings into your mind, you're going to create more of that same. So you really can take charge of this. And is it easy? No, it's not easy because those conditioning is so programmed in you that before you know it, you're not doing what you say you want to do. And that's why we need accountability and support. Let me read what some of the people have said. This all brings back memories of bad experiences as a child that I'm realizing does not define me. Exactly. I'm at a place of a quantum leap, and I definitely have been feeling this. Thank you for sharing with us. Yes, Leslie, great. When my inner critic starts with negative thoughts, I ask for proof those things are true. It quiets down quickly. Thank you for graciously sharing your wisdom. I appreciate your time and knowledge. Basically have an ingrained set of rules that I have outgrown. I need new rules, new mindset, plant positive things, and nurture those daily. Repetition is the key. Absolutely. So I'm going through the ways out. You have to understand what's going on, understand how your mind works. And with this understanding, it allows you to take control of yourself. And this is something we hear a lot of from the inside out. But I don't think people really understand what from the inside out means. And it has to do with that inner image and the outer image and getting those in alignment and congruent with each other. And it also is from the upside down, from the thoughts, feelings, and actions. So we have to get congruent, inside out, upside down, and then we're able to really take control. And even if we get ourselves in a pickle, we can understand what happened. We have our current results are based on our previous thinking. And so if you have a current result you don't like, all you have to do is ask yourself, what was I feeling and what was I thinking before I got this result? And that's going to tell you how you got it. And then you can go unpack it and create new thoughts and feelings to create a new result. And the key is, like, what you have today is based on your previous thinking. So in order to change what you have today into a new result, you have to disconnect from today's results. And that is a really challenging thing to do. You have to not pay attention to what's happening today, only focus on where you're going, where you want to go. If you pay attention to the current result, you're going to create the same thing over and over and over again. And we know that's called insanity, expecting a different result, but getting the same thing. So you also want to develop this bulletproof self-image and belief in yourself. Learn to talk to yourself differently and really master some of these mindset techniques and also self-mastery techniques to get yourself with some new thoughts. And you can totally get yourself out of the imposter syndrome. And what I didn't mention here with imposter syndrome, which is often also in the codependency realm, is like fear of what other people think. And what you think of me is none of my business. In fact, if I care what you think of me, I'm never going to get my goals and dreams. So caring about what other people think, you have to really start detaching from that as well, because it's going to keep you settling for what other people think, what other people want you to be, and really asking yourself, what do you want? Who do you want to be? What are your goals and dreams? It's really hard, to make a break from allowing other people to control your life and taking control of your life on your own. I mean, you're here, you have unique gifts and talents to share with the world. And if you live your life for other people, you're robbing people of your unique gifts and talents. So really, setting yourself up for success with learning and understanding some of these techniques. So I just wanted to share with you and thank you all for listening for the entire hour. You've been great, and you have loved your comments and loved your realizations that you have in here. If anybody has any further questions, put them in the chat before we wrap up here. The information not only will change my life, but can pass it along to my teenagers. Yes, we have to pass this along. And this information is life-changing. When I first learned this information from my mentor, I'd say he saved my life. I say because he put all the pieces together for me that I'd already known, but I didn't know how to apply it. So you've heard the phrases, think to create, or what we think about, we come about. But what I realized is that I didn't really know how to do that until my mentor showed me how to do it. And now I share that with other people. So there's a free class coming up in my Facebook group. It's called Mindset Mastery to Riches, Unlock Your Genius to 10x Your Income, really claim the success and the life you want and deserve. So I think we can put the link in here for that. You can message me for that. It's happening next Monday through Friday. It's a 5-day free class where you're going to learn, you're going to dive deeply into all of this stuff, learn it at a whole nother level. And it's a gift that I give to people in my Facebook group called Living Powerfully Community. So I'd love to have you there if you want to learn more about that there. We're spending actually one of the days on Imposter Syndrome again. So you'll get it again. And then 5 other days in that, going through the first step to riches, which is desire. I don't have those on the top of my head. We're going to talk about your inner thoughts, your secret thoughts that are holding you back, how to become the woman of your dreams. So it's going to be really, really amazing. And then we have bonuses along the way too. So make sure to join us there. If you're interested in having a chat with me, definitely reach out and send me a message about that. I can help you get where you want to go. I do have a program for women called Self-Mastery to Riches, which includes the Mindset Mastery to Riches. And so I really believe that it's all about self-mastery. You know, that riches and wealth can be defined in many different ways. But even if you want to make more money, it all starts inside of us. We have to get ourselves in the right place in order to attract what we're looking for achieving. And it's a wild journey. It's a great journey. I thoroughly love helping you guys, teaching you guys this information. What I have taught you today is just the tip of the iceberg. You've seen that little probably the iceberg, and how big it is underneath the surface, and there is a lot to understand. But as you raise your awareness and as you grow, you're going to start thinking and feeling better about yourself. You're going to be believing more and more in yourself. And really, you've heard of limitless potential. You've heard of unlimited potential. And we think and we know that, but really we don't, because we have that shield over us. But as we start to let that down and become clearer about who we are and where we're going and what we want, we're able to dream more, and we're able to go for higher and higher things. And we trust the process, and we trust ourselves more and more and more. So it's so exciting to be on this journey of personal development and personal growth, and being fearless and free after 40 is truly amazing. I'm like way beyond 40. In fact, I hardly remember 40, but what I can tell you is it just keeps getting better and better if you're on a path of growth. If you're not on a path of growth, it doesn't get better and better. So keep yourself on the growing path. And the way you keep yourself on the growing path is to set yourself a big, juicy goal. You're not going to know how to get there, but you're going to take the leap and make a committed decision to go. And then the path will be shown to you along the way. So fearless and free, baby. I so appreciate everyone on the call today. And I don't see any more questions, so I'll let you go. We're at the top of the hour perfectly. So thank you, everyone, for being on. I look forward to meeting you and getting to know you better in this group. And I'll be doing a workshop once a week, so pay attention for those as they pop up. Probably going to be around the first week of the month, since that's what this is. Happy April 1st, by the way. It's my mom's birthday. And so this always a special day for me. She's no longer with me, but it's a special day. So signing off. See you another time. Bye.